Welcome back to the Girl Doc Survival Guide. Today I'm very happy to be with Dr. Kate Gfeller. Dr. Kate Gfeller, PhD, is Professor Emerita in the Schools of Music, Department of Otolaryngology, Head and Neck Surgery, and Department of Communication Sciences and Disorders. Though retired, she continues interdisciplinary research and community outreach programs within the Department of Otolaryngology, and she mentors students in clinical programs for children who are deaf and hard of hearing in communication sciences and disorders at the University of Iowa. Her work focuses on music perception, effective responses to music, and rehabilitation for individuals with hearing loss and other disabilities. As principal investigator of the NIH-funded Music Perception Project and a member of the Iowa Cochlear implant team, she studies music perception and enjoyment among cochlear implant users, while also advancing interventions for individuals who are deaf, hard of hearing. Her recent studies have emphasized patient-centered research in which she learns from the lived experiences of persons with hearing loss and their families. Dr. Gfeller has received numerous national awards recognizing her excellence in research, teaching, mentorship, and service. She has authored seminal books and more than 200 scholarly publications and has delivered invited lectures and keynote presentations throughout the United States and around the world. Welcome to Kate.
Thanks for having me.
I was introduced to you by Dr. Tom Helm, who was on this podcast in the past and met you through a vacation that you were on together. He knew that I would be interested in talking to you since my son has cochlear implants and you have done all this research. But today we're just going to focus on you and who you are. Can you first share a personal anecdote?
Sure. One of the things that I'll say is that I'm as amazed as anybody that I'm actually doing what I'm doing. I've had a life out doing research on cochlear implants and music perception enjoyment of people with hearing loss. I grew up on a farm in a rural community in Iowa. It was not a typical thing for girls to do what I'm doing now. Girls usually would grow up to be farm wives, secretaries, maybe a teacher, maybe a nurse, and those are all important things to do. As a little girl, I wanted to do something else. I wanted to go to Paris. I wanted to be a college professor. When I was in junior high, I was very aware that the other kids in school, nobody talked about college, nobody talked about traveling any place. That wasn't part of the thing. They were very nice kids, but I could sense that their excitement in life and mine just didn't overlap very much. My dad was a farmer, he's passed away. But I remember saying to my dad, Dad, I'm kind of different from the other kids. In the town where I grew up, fitting in is really important. There's a tall poppy issue. You're not supposed to stick out. You're not supposed to be different from other people. And so I said to him, Dad, I think I'm different from the other kids. And he said to me in this really calm voice, he said, that's okay. He said, being like everybody else is not a life goal. And he said, you need to be respectful and kind to others. But most important, you need to be yourself and you need to be true to yourself. And for my dad to say that, it was one of those pivotal moments. My parents had always been very supportive, but that just kept coming back to me, that it wasn't necessarily a goal to do things like everybody else did or to be just like everybody else. It gave me a little freedom to try things and connect things that maybe hadn't gone together before. And it gave me a chance to kind of go out on some skinny branches and try making connections. There are moments in our lives and people in our lives that can make a difference in where we go.
What did you call it? Tall poppy issue? Is that what you said?
Yes, it's something that's pretty common in Australia. If you think of a field of poppies, the tall poppies get cut off because you mow them to one height. The deal is you're not supposed to be different from other people. You're supposed to fit in things that make you stick out, whether it be you robbed a bank or that you got your PhD. Those things are not supposed to happen. That's what I mean by the tall poppy thing. I was raised to be very aware that I needed to fit into my community. Even though I knew that I was supposed to fit in, my parents would drive for an hour and a half to take me to music lessons, or they would drive me to go see New York Pro Musica coming to the nearest big city, Des Moines. He got me out of school to see their concert. They would do these things in quiet, and they wouldn't talk to anybody about them. We just did them. It was our family thing. They were just very supportive of that, but they also were good community members.
So your parents did this in quiet so that you would fit in outwardly, but at the same time allow you to be yourself.
Yep.
And so how did you end up getting a PhD?
In 5th grade, I had an elementary school teacher. She was taking a college class. And I went to that college class and I just went, oh my God, this is so exciting. I want to be part of this. And I had 2 aunts. My mother and her sisters grew up on a farm, but 2 of them, one married a biochemist from UCLA and the other married an entomologist. I had visited their labs. And oh my God, it was just fabulous. So I had a couple of people, my teacher looking out for me, and then these uncles. And my parents really didn't know exactly how to go about this. But what they did is they gave me all of the experiences that they could do. And then I got scholarships to college that kind of paid for things. And then I met all these wonderful people. I had people who seemed to believe in me and encourage me. I also had horrible situations. Like I remember being told, you're not going to get a research assistantship because the men do the research. The idea that I kind of picked it up. I remember thinking, okay, I'm going to be a good teacher and clinician. And then I started doing research and I went, oh, okay, I kind of like this.
How did you end up doing research when you did internalize the thought that women can't head research?
First of all, I had to in order to graduate. I saw it as just I have to get through this, but in the process, I started to really like it. I had these questions that I wanted to ask. And then the answer to these questions that I was asking, they didn't turn out like I expected them to. The results were more interesting than what I imagined. One thing led to the next. I got a call from the head of otolaryngology saying, I've heard that you are doing some interesting work with kids who use hearing aids. We are starting up a cochlear implant project, and I was wondering if you would consider putting in a research question with our team. Well, what the girls usually do is say, I don't know about that. But what I said is, you know what? I have a meeting coming up in a few minutes, which was also true. But I said, can I call you back? And I just went nuts looking things up. And I had done research with hearing aids, but not with cochlear implants. They were very new at the time. We had only had them since 1985, and this was 1990. So I just worked like a dog, and I called them back, and I said, I have limited knowledge, but these are some of the things I think I could offer you. So I really worked hard, and I put together as good a project as I could. And he said, great, let's go for it. And then that first project, I just went to every meeting I could. I listened to everything that everybody had to say. I learned everything I could about the surgeries. I listened to everything about the engineering. I discovered I could see places where my work would fit in. I looked for those connections and I saw them. Then we went for the next round of funding. And he said, I want you to have your own project. He said, I love what you've done. So honestly, I took some risks, but I also had a really strong work ethic. And I was very well prepared by understanding the other work happening around me by other people in other professions. And I really love that. That's what really drives me, finding those connections.
That's cool. Is there some advice that you, at this point, would wish you had known earlier in terms of trying to become who you are meant to be?
I always assumed when I was younger that everybody, especially urban people, knew more than I did. I had an imposter complex coming from a small town. I assumed that everyone who was from an urban area was smarter than I was. I always assumed that other people were smarter, so I tended not to put myself forward. The one good thing that happened from that, though, is I worked extra hard. And as a result, from doing the work, I became better than what I had imagined I might be. So the work really paid off. And I think if I had just been ho-hum about it, I don't think I'd be where I am today. So maybe on one hand, I was uncomfortable and I felt insecure for a long time. And maybe I had some sleepless nights and some self-doubts. But on the other hand, I think that drove me to really work hard. The other thing I would say is one of the things that has really enriched my research life lately has been the input I've had from CI users and their family members.
Yeah. We can have a certain identity. You're the researcher, you're the expert, and traditionally you're the one with the answers or you're the one who asks the important question and researches the answers. But as you're saying, patients are experts in their own lived experience. As a doctor or an audiologist or a researcher, if you don't have that identity, that lived experience, you can't know the way a patient or a family member experiencing things with that patient will know.
Yeah. We have a noisy society in which every restaurant you go to, every social event you go to, all this background noise is exhausting. Children's classrooms are noisy and exhausting. The kids with the hearing aids or the cochlear implants have to watch the interpreter, watch their teacher, watch the lips, try to focus out all the background noise from the other kids in the classroom. It helped me to actually come up with a model for functioning and making good decisions about your acoustic environment.
Do you have top 3 things that you found that someone living with hearing loss can do to help themselves?
We developed a model based upon the one that I saw from people in diabetes research. The person needs to have sufficient information about the circumstances. They need to understand it at least a basic level. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't have access to that. It doesn't mean they're not intelligent. It means it's just another vocabulary. So having access to information that is written in a way that they can understand, I think, is very important. Then the next phase is that some people are better at taking that information and seeing how it relates to their life. That's one of the places where I think that clinicians can coach people and help them to see how they're able to do that so they can actually apply that information. But then there's another aspect, and this is the part that's a little trickier. There seem to be some people that see challenges as exciting and an opportunity. And those are the people who are more likely to say, I can do this. I can set something up here, as opposed to, I'm exhausted. I just can't do this. Helping a person get into that sense of self-efficacy and self-advocacy is another thing where I think having mentors or coaches or other people who have lived that experience, maybe like family members who coach other family members who have kids with cochlear implants, things like that, to help them see, you know what, you can do this. The other thing I would say is for myself, if I've had enough sleep, I can usually handle things, but if I'm exhausted, not so much. So I think all of us have to give ourselves a break to say, I'm exhausted, but in another day, I'll chip off a little bit. So getting to the point of having self-efficacy in a sense that I am a person who can do this. The people in your community are a big part of this. The people who help you with the information, the people who coach you to see how it can be used for you, and then the people who help you to imagine yourself as a person who can do this. Not everybody has self-efficacy for everything. Some people may have areas where they have good self-efficacy. Other people may need more coaching and more support.
I think it goes back to your story, too, of when you started with doing research in cochlear implants. You took a pause from the phone call and was like, I'm going to get back to you. You did a bunch of research. So you saw the background and then you saw where you could contribute. And then you did. And then your project got bigger and you had a bigger role even in the next grant, etc. It comes down to having a growth mindset and knowing how to use it and apply it. And of course, we're all only human and we don't always want to learn in every single situation, but we can apply that kind of skill to whatever area, especially if we're interested in it.
One of the things that I think is a relief as I've gotten older, I'm much more comfortable with saying, and then there are other things I go, I'm grateful that there are people who are good at this, and I'm going to ask for their help. So forgiving myself for areas where I'm just clueless. When I was younger, I felt like I was supposed to try to accomplish everything. Now I'm picking and choosing a little bit more.
Do you have any final thoughts on finding an identity?
It's an interesting thing because I still recognize that 5-year-old girl who was really excited about things. I still feel like I'm the same essential person. I absolutely loved to learn things when I was really little, and I loved to make things up over time as a result of difficult times, disappointments, tragedies, sorrows. I'm not quite as sure that everything can be accomplished, but I also feel like there are certain things that matter more and that I take more seriously. So I feel like I'm still the same essential self. And I also had to say, I am so lucky that there were people who believed in me. And now I'm trying to be that to other people who are younger than me, helping people to believe that they could take on a challenge and be excited about it. The other thing is, I would say that the whole notion of what it means to be a human being, what kindness means, what generosity means, what freedom of thought means, those things are really important to me right now.
Very nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's just been a real pleasure to talk with you, Christine. I also want to wish you all the best on your work professionally and on your becoming yourself and all of the facets that you have in your life, with not only being a dermatologist and a scholar and a teacher, but you're a mom and you're a member of your community. All the best to you on those things. I hope
Thank
our
you.
paths cross again sometime.
Thank you.